freedom is very fragile. It's more fragile when we don't know the truth. You're about to be part of FramersView, where truth is the foundation of every day's program. Join us live every weekday right here on Rumble at 1 p.m. Eastern. Now, here's Neil Frame on FramersView.
$78 degrees already. Whew. Man, I wish we had air conditioning. When you live up in the higher elevation, they didn't build houses with air conditioning. Not only did they not build houses with air conditioning, there's no vents to blow the heat and cold. They use hot water heat, which is awesome. It's the greatest heat ever. But you got to do a mini split or something to get air conditioning. And our house is way too open wide open to be able to make that work in most cases. I don't know why I'm telling you that. I'm telling you that because, well, that's the way it is. Hey, the heat is on in more than one way. There's heat outside and there's heat for the Dems. And they're starting to realize, finally, that this heat is going to get even worse. And I say that from a relative feeling of confidence. I will never say, and you're never going to hear me say, oh, the Republicans are going to win. They're going to take it all in November. You're not going to hear me say that. Because like I've used the example of American Idol, when you give it up to the American people to vote, they'll make Hannah the great champion of 2026. Should have been in 15th place. But that's the way it works. And so voters will vote the way they think. And I'm fine with that. But the problem is, when you watch American Idol, you see the show going on, you see the stories, and you make your decision. And I'm cool with that, even though I wonder how they figure it out that way. But when it comes to politics, they're not hearing the whole story because the press doesn't share that information. And I know I keep pounding on that, but you need to tell your friends what I'm saying. This is not something that's just some imaginary issue. This is the problem that's been going on literally for years, but at a high level since 2015 when Donald Trump came down the old escalator. And everybody laughed. He'll never become. No, that's never going to happen. No. Well, guess what? And here we are. Won the first one, probably won the second one, but definitely won the third one, and he's here. And they're getting worried on the Democrat side because if he keeps winning, remember he said, are you tired of winning? Are you going to get to a point where you're tired of winning? Is winning going to be too much for you? Well, for the Dems, too much is definitely one of the cases for them because, they're looking at this whole situation where this war, as they call it, which the war is over. I know that they don't get this on the Democrat side. Well, they get it, but they're never going to admit it. But it's tied to so much. What are we at? 3.5% inflation, down from where Biden was at 9%. We've got gas prices are going to start coming down because just before the show, I took a look and guess what? Ready? $76 a barrel, 76 and change. A barrel, as opposed to 107 a barrel when he started this conflict with Iran to stop what they were doing. And if you look at your history calendar, you'll notice it started 47 years ago. And Trump is the first president that's doing anything about it. Anything. If there's ever been a situation where the people that are involved in politics are afraid to, unwilling to, or incapable of doing something that's as important as taking this situation to a conclusion, which is Iran and their hate for America and the people that want us dead and everything that they're doing in the Middle East. And now you got Trump getting the job done. So you would think to yourself, well, this is good, right? They don't think so. They don't think so. And if they don't think this is a good thing, there's nothing you can say other than they hate. They can't stand having Trump win. Because if he wins in these things, November is going to be a real problem for them. And while this is going on, the Dems are going further and further and further to the left. Left, 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 left. And the people that are kind of the moderate Democrats, they're just literally getting blown out. We saw that last night. So the heat is on. So the deal is hinging on Friday. We know that. The deal is hinging on the signing of this agreement. But I was watching before this show started, Trump in Switzerland at the G7, and he made a few comments that I thought were very powerful. One was, yeah, we're signing it. But he didn't just intimate. He basically said, there's no reason we can trust these people. We're going to have to not trust and verify. Reagan said, trust but verify. With these people in Iran, the leaders, it's don't trust and verify. And, who the victim is in this? I mean, we could say we're the victim because, America is paying more for stuff and the cost of goods are expensive. I literally carried out of the grocery yesterday things in my arms that none of them included a steak or anything that's expensive. And it was $30. Now, $30 isn't a lot of money, but when you can carry it in your arms and not worry about dropping something, because of course in Colorado, you have to pay for bags. Don't get me started on that one. But these things are happening and people are upset about them. And Trump knows deep down inside, not even deep down inside, he knows, and in the inner circle, he understands and everybody there understands. Either they're going to follow with the agreement, and he's also intimated that whole agreement is not put together yet. Everything, it has to say nuclear weapons gone, enrichment over, attacking Middle East, Europe, everybody, building missiles, being a threat to many people in the world. And, all you libs that live on the East Coast, you understand that they're about 2 weeks away from, if they want to, having a missile that will make it to your shores. And that isn't going to be good. That's not going to be good at all. So what we know and we don't know, that this just drives me nuts. The people that are talking about all of the things that they know about what's in this agreement, when J.D. Vance and Donald Trump don't even know all of the things that's in this agreement because they're not writing this agreement. Qatar and other nations are putting this together. And as they're putting this together, there's communication with our negotiators. But all this has to be signed and agreed upon on Friday. You want my prediction? It's not going to go well. And then the difference between Trump and Biden and Obama and George W. Bush and Bill Clinton and H.W. Bush and Ronald Reagan and all the other people, I think Trump will melt them. And the victim, as I started to say earlier, is going to be the Iranian people, which is really, it's like if we got attacked here in the U.S., the victims are everybody that lives in this country, whether you got hit in that area or not. And the proof and the evidence of that is after 9/11, what we went through to get on an airplane. I mean, I was on an airplane the day that the 9/11 stoppage of flights ended, and they had flights out of airports. And in Denver, I was on one of the early flights. I was on a flight like 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was surreal. The security, what we had to do, what we had to prove, they went through our bags, I mean, big time. There was a lot to that, and that all came from being attacked, but not in Denver, in New York City, where 3,000 people died, along with people at the Pentagon and others in Pennsylvania. But it changed our country even to this day. Like, you have to take your laptop out of your bag, which is just BS. But it's warm and fuzzy. They can tell, they can see the laptop. But all of this has occurred because of an attack. And the suffering that would happen in Iran after we would do whatever we might do to end these idiots that are in Iran that think they're going to control what we do and how we do it. So we'll see what will happen. What will happen is more important than will it happen. I think something's going to happen. These people that claim they know what's going on, and I'm going to show you some videos. Chris Murphy's one of them up front here. He has talked constantly, that Trump's destroying America. He and Hakeem Jeffries, I do not believe they don't know better. This is all about election. This is all about them winning. But, you got to have some chance of honesty. And what Chris Murphy says, I've got some information that shows some of the things he's saying isn't true. And some of the stories with J.D. Vance, what was going on with that, with his book tour, and people are asking questions. The Dems that can't let us win on the Republican side, a great piece on that. Free speech are the enemies of free speech, which are the ones that we have to say we have to have free speech. It's like Southern Poverty Law Center saying that they're going to protect the poor, protect people from violence, when we now know that they are paying people, as an example, paying KKK to stay in business, to be able to cause trouble so that they can raise more money. I mean, that's diabolical. I don't know how to put it any other way. That's just plain, flat out diabolical. That's crazy. Newsom, got a story with that. Newsom is starting to get himself out there in front of the public more. And I think he's going to prove himself, just like in so many ways, Kamala Harris. He's not a likable guy. He's slick. He is a slick boy. I think he makes Bill Clinton look like a starter. Newsom is the deal. He knows how to convince everybody that doesn't know any better. We'll talk about that. And then a little bit of information with Elon Musk and his involvement with the UK. This guy's got a lot of power, not just money. He has influenced so much in this country. It's amazing. So that's part of the show for today. But I want to get into the whole thing of Chris Murphy. Chris Murphy was claiming that, just lying about what the deal is with Iran, what the agreement is. And we don't all know. We're pretty sure that no one knows what this agreement is in a finality, including both sides of this negotiation. And that's the way it works. I can't tell you how many times I went in a negotiation on a buyout on a company, and acquisitions, you never know. I mean, I've had situations where we went in to buy a company and we were on the edge of signing everything, and we found other information that said this isn't a good idea, and we had to back out. It happens. And that's basically as a start-finish line. So it can happen in these situations, especially when you've got something like Iran, who you can't trust in the first place and is hell-bent on getting it their way. And I think they think we're going to go in there Friday and they're going to say, no, we're going to do it this way, and that's the way it's going to be. And they think that Trump and his boys are all going to say, oh, okay, well, thanks, and fly back home. That's not the way it works anymore in America. But they'll find it out. So Chris Murphy talking about the agreement with Iran and what he doesn't know. He doesn't say what he doesn't know. We'll share that.
It does bear repeating that none of Donald Trump's objectives have been achieved, and they're not even close to being achieved. Reportedly, Iran still has 70% of their missiles after a $60 billion bombing campaign. The Ayatollah is gone, but the regime now is more radical and more capable. The regime has proved that they can take America's best shot and survive. They have proved that they can control the Strait of Hormuz.
And he's proven, Chris Murphy has proven he can lie out of his ass. Look, Iran is not stronger, is not strong. He is absolutely cheering on Iran. This is a senator for America, one of 100, that's doing this kind of a thing, that's saying these things that he doesn't even know. He has no idea what's really going on. And so when that happens, when these things occur, the biggest issue then is, what is the truth? And that's where you have to shut up, step back, and let the process go through. You know, Chuck Schumer, Chris Murphy, Hakeem Jeffries, all these people are saying, we've got to know, the Gang of Eight, we need a meeting with Trump, and we need to know what the agreement is. You know what? If I were in a group of people I didn't trust, to be able to say something to them that they could take to the press and lie about it, there's no way. As soon as you've had the meeting, anything they say is solid information. Do you understand that? They're going to take it to the press, and the press will do their job following the orders of the Democrat Party, and they will go right after it and say Trump's the bad guy. So one of the things that Chris Murphy said is about the missiles. So guess what? I went to Grok. How many of Iran's missiles still remain? Now, first of all, I will say to you, some of it is almost correct. No one knows the exact number. That's the first thing and the most important thing in this story. It's classified and estimates very widely. Pre-war, in early 26, Israel assessed Iran had around 2,500 ballistic missiles capable of reaching Israel. During the February and to April 26 war with the U.S. and Israel, Iran fired 1,400. 1,400. So that's 1,100 left, basically. Coalition strikes destroyed and damaged a big chunk of its launchers and stockpiles. Launchers were hit especially hard, down 70 to 75% at one point. At the April ceasefire, most estimates put Iran's remaining missiles at roughly 1,000 to 1,500, with some U.S. intel saying they retained about 70% of pre-war stocks, while Israel assessments were lower. Production facilities took heavy damage, so rebuilding is slow. Short-range missiles for the Gulf fared far better than long-range ones for Israel. It's all fuzzy because of underground storage and resupply claims. What does this tell you? It tells you what I said before I showed you Chris Murphy. It tells you everything you need to know about what this lunatic says and how he says it and what he says and what he claims. He doesn't know. Israel, how far can you throw a missile if you don't have the launchers? How many missiles do you have? Nobody even knows. And I would say, well, some people would say, well, that's really scary. Well, first of all, I would bet that there's people that know how many missiles Iran have. Because I will never believe there aren't CIA agents in Iran right now. I don't know that, but I know how CIA has worked since World War whenever. Well, I don't think they were around in World War I. Maybe they were. They infiltrate. They get people to work with them. They get the information they need. How do you think they hit these locations when they attacked Iran and took out their missile silos, their launchers, everything that they had? People had to be able to tell them where those were. They had to get coordinates. And a lot of that is controlled by joystick now. But the point is, there's people giving him information. We can pretty well be sure of that. So Chris Murphy and all the Dems are going to say whatever they have to try to stop Trump from winning. I'll get to that in a minute. But we just can't win. So it's fortuitous, and I would suggest planned, that the book that was written by J.D. Vance is coming out. So he's got a book tour, which gets him everywhere. Well, one of those places it gets him to is CBS. And his comments to Nora, I can't think of her last name, but this was yesterday. Watch this.
What does this deal fundamentally do? It ensures that Iran won't get a nuclear weapon, and it ensures the Straits of Hormuz are open. That's what the president wanted to accomplish. He wanted to ensure that Iran would not have a nuclear weapon, and this deal will accomplish precisely that. I do think there are people, Nora, who sometimes confuse the ends with the means. The president of the United States used diplomacy. He used economic leverage. He also used military leverage in order to ensure that Iran would have a nuclear weapon. That was the goal. I think there are some people who just want the bombing to continue regardless of whether it accomplishes anything for Americans. That's not what the president is trying to do. He's not trying to cause misery for the people of Iran. He's trying to ensure that they don't have a nuclear weapon, and that's what we've done.
This is a really good point. He's used diplomacy. He's used bombs to stop the nuclear expansion that they were doing, and they're getting close. And he had to stop that. So the first thing you do is you punch them in the face when they don't expect it. The second thing you do is you start negotiations. Then you have to threaten them a little bit. We're going to blow you up if you don't do something. Then they backed off. Then we went into a ceasefire, which I'm a little uncomfortable with because they're rebuilding, in their garages and trying to build more weapons while that ceasefire is going on. But diplomacy was going on. Our people were there trying to negotiate with, the 74th layer of people that are still left. But we can't trust them. So, you do what you can do. Then we finally get to this point where clearly Trump made it really clear, you're either going to agree and open up the strait, or you guys are done. And so now we have this written agreement, which supposedly will be finished and ready. Today's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's going to be our day. And what will happen? We honestly don't know right now. We don't really know what's going to happen. So shut up. That's all I can say. Speaking of shut up, JD like I said, has been going on his tour for the book that he came out with, which gives him an opportunity to talk about Iran and supports the process of what Trump's doing. It's a perfect timing, which I'm not surprised about, and you shouldn't be either. But here's the thing. He's going into the devil's den. Now, watch this, and, well, you'll see what I mean. This is interesting.
We do have to strike a balance, of course, between enforcing our laws. We don't want to dehumanize people.
I meant to mention for this video, this is it at The View. You're going to see something that you wouldn't catch if you weren't thinking about it. Watch the looks on their faces as he's talking and listen to some of the things Sonny Hostin says.
The balance that, look, law enforcement, what I'd say about this, law enforcement is always inherently not a very pretty process, especially when you're dealing sometimes with violent people, with people who are resisting arrest. Some of the people that I've been told by the media were completely peaceful, had never violated any laws. You actually look into the record and you find out that those people were actually being violent, or they did have a criminal record. They had a sex trafficking conviction.
Don't have criminal records. So the majority of people that ICE is rounding up and taking out of their homes from their families, they're separating families. They're using children as bait.
But
the majority are not criminals.
But can I respond to that, guys? Let me just say this. Okay. So you talk about the children. Here's what I'd say. Do we know that during the last administration, we had tens of thousands of children who were sex trafficked by the cartels, who were brought into our country in profoundly dangerous and predatory conditions?
Let's talk about this administration.
But here's the point. Unless you enforce the border, you invite that kind of conduct. You think that our immigration policies are inhumane based on the reporting of one person with a political bias. What I'm telling you is that it's inhumane to allow cartels to sex traffic people across our border.
Or Sonny couldn't help, the look on her face like she was going to cry. She forgot about the cages that Obama was putting the kids in and separating the kids. The same as every other time when you have deportation, these kind of things happen. It's not great, but it happens. And it wouldn't happen if they didn't come across the board illegally. What can I tell you? Follow the law, follow the rules, everything will be okay. But, Sonny made the comment, but let's talk about this administration, because she doesn't want anybody to hear what Biden was doing or not doing, his people were doing. Therein lies the problem. There's a strong push by everybody to keep Trump from winning and ever letting anybody know that Trump is winning. And is he perfect? No. Does he do stuff that pisses me off? Yes. But he's, I've mentioned that I've got friends that know him from New York as a construction guy, not as president. And first of all, he couldn't care less what people think of him. I think if I lived in New York City, I can tell you this, you get an extra layer of gator skin on you living there. It's tough. And if your little feelings get hurt any place, it's going to get hurt there. And he built skyscrapers with everybody trying to keep him from doing it long before he was a politician. Long before. And he had to push and push to be able to clear an area to build some of the most spectacular landscape products that's in New York City. I mean, you could tear all the other buildings down and you would still go, wow, I can't believe that's all Trump stuff. So he's a winner. He doesn't give up. He's a negotiator. He knows when to walk away, and he knows when he's getting BS'd. The problem with this Iran thing is that he knows he's being BS'd, but he has to resolve this. There's times where you just go, okay, we have no place to go with this. So, supporting this nonsense stuff, I captured a video from Gutfeld on Fox where JD was on the show. By the way, Gutfeld, the nighttime show that's beating the major networks, has more viewers than anybody. And so JD's there talking about, well, he talks about his book, but it's more about Iran. Watch this, and then I'm going to share something with you.
Honestly, Greg, I expected them to be absolutely vicious, and they were only a little bit vicious. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Joy Behar even said during the break, not joking, she said, "You know what? You're like pretty good for a Republican." And I was like, whoa, that is a way better compliment than I expected from Joy Behar. I got to say, I thought that Sunny, the woman to my left, was going to call me a racist. In reality, it was Whoopi, the woman to my right, who called me a racist. So expectations were defied.
Well, you know why Sunny can't call you a racist, because as you know, her ancestors were slave owners.
Now, first of all, interesting that Joy Behar, not on stage, but in the back room, said, "You're a better guy than I expected," paraphrasing. They put on a show, and they do a show for the show. Because nobody can be that stupid as they are on the screen, on stage. Well, I guess you can, but you would like to think that they're really not as stupid as they are. And it's like the press. The press isn't getting it wrong. The press is getting their story out and trying to make you believe they're right when they're left. So something I didn't know, somehow I missed it. I mentioned it to Marie, and she said, "How'd you not know that?" I said, "Did you know it?" "No, I didn't know it." I said, "Well," she said, "all you do is follow the news." She said, "You spend all day." And I said, "Well, yeah, it's my job." But I didn't know this thing about Sunny Hostin and her family of slaves. Look at this. Hey, Grok, was Sunny Hostin's ancestors slave owners? That's what I said into the world famous Grok, which, by the way, I tried Chat GPT, I do Copilot, I do all of them. They all give the same answer, basically. Some of them are a little different, but basically it's the same story. Yeah, according to her appearance on finding her roots with Henry Louis Gates Jr., her maternal ancestors from Spain were involved in the slave trade. That doesn't mean they had slaves working on their farm. They were selling slaves. Her fourth great-grandfather was a merchant, likely in the trade, and her third great-grandfather owned at least one enslaved person. So that person was cleaning their house. Her family moved from Spain to Puerto Rico after slavery was banned there, apparently to keep the business going. This is Sunny Hostin, who is the most obnoxious, "I know everything and you're all bad people" family. She was shocked by it, she being Sunny Hostin. Said it was disappointing, and her mom actually cried when she heard. They know. And her dad's side, she also has ancestors who were enslaved in Georgia. It's a mix on both sides. Like a lot of family histories, when you dig back far enough. Guys, this is the example of those that think they are above and better than you. And then they find out, you know what? Maybe we're not. Maybe we're just some people that are, on TV, and we supposedly know everything and all things, and everybody's supposed to believe everything we say, and don't tell me I'm wrong. That's basically how they are. And then Gutfeld brings it up. And like I said, I didn't know this one. So I did some research. Sure enough, I'd like to say I had no family members that's ever owned slaves. I don't know that. I have no idea. The people that are my ancestors, my great-great-great-grandparents, which in fairness, really, they came to this country after after slavery was over in the 1860s and on. But they didn't have slaves. And you can't just assume you're better than everybody else, because you're probably not. So with that said, now to support what I've been saying for the last 36 minutes. They can't let us win, us being the Republican Party, the true Republicans. You don't have to be MAGA to be Republican. You have to be in favor of fairness and things going for America, not going for you personally. I mean, in the end, when it goes for America, it goes for you. Pretty simple. So this guy he's a senator, I believe it is, from, where is he from? Alabama? I'm not sure where he's from. His name is Monalar, and he's talking about we can't let Trump win. Not him saying that the Dems are saying that.
The Democrats are simply being obstructionists. They do not want to help anything get done because they don't want to give President Trump credit for anything. And so I think we'll have to go alone on our appropriations, but we want to strengthen our defense industrial base. We know that the world isn't getting any safer, and it's time that the Democrats stop playing politics with our national security and our national defense.
That's exactly right. And the FISA is one of them. We have right now, based on law, because FISA was not approved, we have no way to track what the foreigners are doing and are planning to come into this country at a time when we have virtually the world here for the soccer tournaments all over the country. Can't have that happen. So they've once again, Dems are keeping it from happening. They can't let you win. So I've got a little collage of people and things that are said and have been said about free speech, which is part of this, we can't let Trump win. And these are kind of stunning when you see them in 8 different people, 8 different Democrats making some comments that we'll discuss afterwards. Watch this.
His Twitter account should be suspended. The privilege of using those words in that way should probably be taken from him.
There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
No right given to the people of the United States is absolute, and that includes the right to free speech. We are simply trying to create factually correct information to prevent harm to people.
You shouldn't be banned from one platform and not others for providing misinformation out there.
The First Amendment is not absolute. It does not protect any single thing anyone says. And what this committee has been trying to do for the last year and a half is to chill the federal government from monitoring what is going on social media.
There are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda, and whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrent.
This is a matter of corporate responsibility. Twitter should be held accountable and shut down that site. It is a matter of safety and corporate accountability.
I strongly believe that Section 230 has long outlived its use, and it is now a real vessel for evil that needs to come to an end. The laws that Section 230 protects these big platforms from are very often laws that go back to the common law of England.
Oh, really? So all of those people that you just saw, of course, are Democrats. That's number one. But more importantly, what they were saying about this was all about Trump having to be taken off of everything. No free speech for him. And what did Walz say? You know, there's no guarantee of you can't say misinformation, that's what they do, the Dems. That's what the press does. They just never stop. And as long as that goes on, the public is misinformed, which leads to the ballot box. I know people that are so far left, it's unbelievable. But if I could just get them to watch something other than MS Now and CNN and CBS and have them watch something else, they don't have to accept what they see. They need to do a little research or watch FramersView and let Neil show them. But as long as you continue to push these narratives that are not true, that are misinformation, and by the way, that 230 that White House was talking about, that 230 law is that you can't sue the Facebooks and the X's and all those. It was Twitter back then when he was talking about that. But they're the ones that were telling those companies what to say and what not to allow on their platform. Whatever they say is what they're doing, guys. I've said this so many times, and I will continue to say it until you get it. And I think you get it. But you need to tell 10 of your friends and have them tell 10 of their friends to make them aware of what's going on. Because this is dangerous. So we can't let them win. We can't let them be successful or it'll hurt us. But then the other thing they do is they make a claim which is so wrong. I get it, but once again, they're guilty of it, and they're now claiming, and I've got a couple of videos today about this. This is about the weaponizing that Trump is doing against people on the Democrat Party. Well, guess what? Just because we know that weaponizing Trump, nothing has gone through, and even the E. Jean Carroll public or private issue is starting to fall apart and may end up going through a retrial. Nothing they've said, nothing they've convicted him of, nothing that they've blamed him of, and nothing he's been indicted of has turned out to be true. That's weaponization. January 6th committee with Benny Thompson and Liz Cheney and all the lunatics on that board, that was misinformation. That was, it's almost treason. And to prove that it wasn't right was when we find out that they took all the evidence and destroyed it after the investigation was done, the TV show. What does that tell you? They didn't want anybody to see the other information that they interviewed people and it never came out. It's misinformation, misinformation. There's no Mr. Information, just misinformation. So watch this guy, Padilla, talking about weaponization.
You said it at the top. This is a solution in search of a problem. All the studies, all the audits, all the reports show voter fraud is exceedingly rare, but there's a couple things we know about the administration. Number one, they don't like dissent. They don't like people disagreeing with them. Number two, they don't like accountability. That's why they resist congressional oversight so much, whether it's in the halls of Congress, at detention centers, or anywhere else. And third, they don't like people voting against them or against their agenda, and they're setting the stage to try to rig this November's election in so many ways before ballots are even cast.
This is scary. They're allowing, first of all, the news person that's putting this on should say, what evidence do you have that they're trying to do these things? You know, that's a real problem for them, because that's when they start stuttering and stammering. And sometimes they stutter and stammer when they're just making statements that are totally a lie and wrong. We'll get to that in a second. But every day we see this stuff coming on the 3 major broadcast networks and the 2 cable networks that are on the left inside, which of course is CNN and MS Now, which they have less viewers than some people that's here on Rumble. I mean, they don't have anybody believing them. But there's still a large, remember, there was 70, 80 million people on each side that voted for a Republican and Democrat in the 2024 election. And some of those people have no idea. I've got family members have no idea. Honestly, my brother, if I went back with him 5-6 years ago, he was in the middle at best. Of course, doesn't like Trump. Trump's obnoxious. He's this, he's that. He didn't really know. And I kept talking to him about it. Say, watch this, watch that, check this out. See what these people are doing. And guess what happened? All of a sudden, one day I was talking to him on the phone, and he said, good God, I can't believe, I don't remember what the subject was, but that's happening, and they're claiming it didn't, or it didn't happen when they claimed it did. And he was stunned. And now, I wouldn't call him a right-winger by any stretch, but he's aware, and he's going to vote with information because he's paying attention, even though he doesn't watch my show that much. It's brothers. Anyway, we have to vote. And I got a couple videos about more weaponization, but I want to set the stage a little bit because the voting and the voter ID and the SAVE Act, which is so important, it's so important. And more than so important, when we started mailing out ballots was when ID ended. And then the states started to say, we don't need ID, come in, you can vote. There's people that are right now saying that they've received, one person, I was reading a story, they said that they got 4 ballots in the mail today. Well, this was a few days ago. Here in Colorado. And 4 ballots. There's only 2 of them there. The other 2, to make 4, whatever, hands, to get 4 were the residents that used to live in that house. And they were mailed there. Now, let's say they're whacked out liberals. They'll fill out that ballot and send it in. And there's a chance that the system will pick up the signature and say, these are out. But I don't trust my county. I trust that they'll probably just blow right past that stuff. I don't trust them. And honestly, I don't trust politicians because they're too busy trying to get elected and reelected and reelected and reelected. But that said, Mark Kelly, Senator Mark Kelly, astronaut Kelly, who's so far off to the right, it's unbelievable, talking about ID.
The SAVE Act, what Donald Trump is pushing, is what the whole plan is to make it really difficult for people to vote. Because he knows when there are low turnout elections and you disenfranchise certain populations, it's more likely that somebody like Donald Trump and the people around him, his candidates, will get elected.
Well, that's not quite true because in the last election in 2024, Trump got more votes than ever, and there were more votes that occurred in the 24 election than ever, and he won. So that in itself is crazy. Now, I'll tell you right up front, I'm not happy with John Thune not doing something to get this SAVE Act through because we're running out of time. They're about to start printing ballots, not ballots, but sending out ballots and getting ready for the election. And we need legal ID. Somebody asks for legal ID from me, it's not a problem. To suggest that you people, you voters, are so stupid, so incapable, so uneducated, so incapable of figuring anything out in your life. Of course, that's why the government's here, you morons. That you can't even figure out how to get legal ID. Is it you? Do we really want to believe that? That people can't figure that out? And all those people that don't have legal ID, have they ever bought a bottle of booze? Have they ever been on an airplane? Have they ever had to get into an event? You have to have ID. When you go to a political event, Democrat or Republican, you have to have ID. They don't let people just go in. So what is he talking about? Making it harder? First of all, if you don't have, I said this a couple, 3 weeks ago. If you don't have an ID, you can get a hold of the county that you were born in and you get a birth certificate. If you just became a citizen of the United States, you can get a hold of them and you can say, hey, I need proof of my citizenship. What's your name? What's your date of birth? What's your this and that? And they go, okay, we'll mail that out to you. And you know what? They're probably going to ask for a picture ID. But the point is, you've got a picture, and they've got a picture of you. When they pull that up, they know it because they can see it. What's your social security number? Click, 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 click. Put it in. There it is. This isn't hard. And we can't go by driver's licenses because, like California, they give a driver's license to everybody. Just show up. Are you a citizen? That question's never asked. And if it is, they'll say they won't speak English. They'll speak Mexican, and they'll say, yes, I'm a citizen. But they're not. But they get a driver's license. So we have to have a little bit of different ID. That's what's going to happen. So Kamala Harris, she's running for office. There's no question. These last 2 political videos are about people who are running for office. Kamala is running. Don't question that. She's going to be standing there when they're doing the debates, and somehow she's going to try to sound intelligent, which I don't think she can pull off. But look at this.
I predicted just about everything that has happened with this
administration.
She's so smart.
And you saying I told you so?
I don't say I told you so. That's kind of obnoxious. I don't say
And
that,
so are
but
you.
the reality is many of us predicted. And it didn't require much creative thought because he told us most of what we knew would happen, including that he would go after his political enemies using the Department of Justice.
Isn't that classic? Going after his enemies. We now know that from an enemy standpoint, this whole thing with the 8647 with James Comey, this is a great example of an enemy that has broken the law and has threatened the President of the United States. That's a threat. 8647, everybody knows what 8647 is. Not everybody. Most people do. If you're from New York, you know, 86 them. That happens. It happens often. And 8647 obviously is Trump. And that's one of his enemies. And they're accusing him of going after somebody who doesn't deserve it, maybe. And all the other people that have been doing things that are illegal. Forget about the fact it's against Trump. You know, the Justice Department has to take the case. And I'm not one that believes that either one, Pam Bondi or Blanche, either one of them, are just bootlickers to Trump. But they do want to get to the bottom of some of this stuff. So she knew it. She predicted it. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. Wow. Another person that's running for office, This is really good. Newsom, there's no question he's running. His wife is in big trouble. He's got real problems, and he's on the train to go after him. And that train is the only one he's been able to get on a track, because the train he's trying to put in California, he can't even lay any rail down yet. And he spent billions of dollars. So this is his game. Watch this.
Donald Trump isn't just coming after me because of my mean tweets. He's coming after me because I'm considering running for president.
He's running.
Because he hates that I've consistently called him out over and over again for his lies and deceit. Donald Trump is simply the most corrupt president in American history. He's turned the levers of government into his own personal power ministries to reward cronies and to try to jail his opponents. So let me say it again. Mr. President, come after me. I'm not going anywhere. And the country is watching.
Oh, isn't that classic? And gee whiz, isn't Trump the one that when he won in 2016, before he was even inaugurated, the Dems were already starting impeachments? Come on. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that they weren't starting an impeachment before he ever even performed as president of the United States. And then the second one, which was even more stupid. And now we're learning that there were people embedded in the situation for January 6th. They were helping the people in the building because they needed that to work. And they've used it for years. Jan 6, Jan 6, Jan 6. And it's crooked. And we know there's a number of different instances. Do I agree with some of the people that got pardoned by Trump? Nope. There's some I think probably shouldn't have. But probably most of these people, they just lost their mind when they were down there. Those people that are down there were told by Trump, if you might recall, go peacefully. Go peacefully. But they didn't. All right. Final story. Elon Musk is our first trillionaire. And not only is he trillionaire, he put a car together that many people have bought in a time period that would stun anybody that's at General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, Honda, any of these automotive companies. What he built, and overall, the quality that he put into these vehicles is amazing. Then he puts people in space. He brings back the rockets and lands them in the cup holder. But they can't stand it. So now he's kind of advocating for the UK. He's South African rather. And he cares about the world. Watch this. He's doing some kind of a meeting with people that are out protesting in the UK.
You're in a fundamental situation here where whether you choose violence or not, violence is coming to you. You either fight back or you die. You either fight back or you die. And that's the truth.
Today, Elon, I think the British public are telling the world that they're ready to fight back.
Good. Yes.
Well, this is a good example of Musk recognizing and working with these people, because England is a mess right now. Starmer and all of the mayor of London, a worthless nothing. And they let all kinds of people come into that country. The same thing for Germany, same thing for France. They all have a big problem now. But this is becoming global. And that's why we have to worry about it. We'll talk a little bit more tomorrow about stuff. Thank you for being here. 1:00 Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. Join me. Even if I'm not broken, join me. And I hope you have a good day. Till then, Rock on.
Thanks for your support. Join the FramersView Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern.